Hi, everyone, and welcome to All the Things with Amanda Prech. That's me, your host, a podcast where radical self-leadership meets relentless growth, all with a sprinkle of magic. So welcome to episode 1. My name is Amanda, and I will be your host for this podcast. This is going to be a space for real conversations. These are going to be conversations that are going to challenge surface level narratives about personal growth, about leadership, about self-leadership. Growth isn't always pretty, right? And so we don't need to talk about it that way. Truth definitely isn't always comfortable. And leadership, I believe, starts within. So on this podcast, we will talk about a wide variety of topics. I like to think that this is going to be almost like, an old variety show. But we're going to talk about anything and everything from wellness to spirituality, business to relationships, motherhood to money, astrology to AI, and everything in between, because all of it touches your personal evolution in some way. And if it forces you to grow, then that is definitely something that we are going to be talking about here. So today, episode 1, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to start at our foundations, and we're going to talk about radical self-leadership. Now, you might be thinking, what is radical self-leadership? Okay, yeah, I sensationalized it a little bit because, that just sounds so much cooler, right? And here's why. Because while self-leadership at its core is the ability to lead oneself, radical self-leadership means that you have gone within so deeply, that you are so unshakable in your knowledge of who you are and your foundations, that you can stand in your truth and your power, that you can help guide and direct your own evolution, right? I think it's really important, the most important work ever, honestly, that you're going to do is to lead yourself, and to lead yourself first. Not in just like a motivational sort of way, but in a visceral and unshakable way of knowing that nobody else can do this for you. This is the work that you've got to be willing to do for yourself. Now, you have free will, you have a choice, you don't have to do that. But if you're here, then that is something that's on your heart, on your mind, or something you're already in the work of doing. Now, I'm a huge John Maxwell fan, and obviously I'm passionate about growth and development and leadership, and I absolutely just adore his books. And one of the things that, if you have read any of his books or you're familiar with his work, and if you're not, we're gonna talk about this very, very briefly here. One of his foundations is that everything rises and falls on leadership. I agree. However, everything begins with self-leadership. Before you can even think about leading others, you must be able to first lead yourself. Here's the thing. I think this is super important to address because it does, in fact, have to do with the fact that your outer world is a reflection of your inner world. So what are you reflecting? What are you projecting? If you are looking at things right now in your business, your life, your money, your boundaries, your peace, whatever it is, they're all being shaped on some level by your level of self-leadership. So taking radical ownership for how you think, how you feel, how you respond, especially not just when things are good and comfortable, but when things are challenging, when it's not convenient, when it's difficult. It means that you are not outsourcing your power, your alignment to other people for their approval, right? You have realized that external validation is just that. It's right. We can't lie and say that it's not nice, right? It's always nice to get some validation from others. However, that is not the ultimate goal. You need to be so comfortable and so powerful in who you are that, yeah, it'll be nice when somebody else validates something that you've done, but you already know that it's more than enough, because that's how you feel about yourself. You're standing in your own power, in your own sovereignty. You're not performing a role. In fact, you are transmitting a frequency. But this is where it's going to get uncomfortable, right? Because in order to do that, in order to really grow and develop, and really begin to lead yourself, that's going to require some friction on your part and friction against yourself, right? You don't grow without friction and tension and stretch. These are things that are necessary in order to shift our perspectives and challenge ourselves. Can you do that? It gets really uncomfortable. Growth is uncomfortable, but that's what makes it beautiful, because it's worth it. It's always worth it in the end. And once you can get yourself through that, then you have to also start looking at your circle and the people that you're surrounding yourself with. The next level of discomfort. Are you around a bunch of people that are just like you? That's not going to help your growth. That's not going to help you stretch your mind. It's not going to help you challenge your beliefs, challenge your own growth, continue to grow, right? We need to have people around us that have varying viewpoints so that we can continue to expand on ours. You don't grow by being in a room full of people that are just like you and don't challenge you. You grow when you can also be challenged by others, changed by others. An echo chamber, right, feels safe, but it's not. It's honestly, it's just a way to keep you small and in a box. And I don't know about you, but personally for me, that is death. To me, that is stagnation. You will hear me say, if you're not growing, you're dying, and stagnation is death. And then what the fuck is the point? Again, you have free will to do so. However, if you're here, that is not something that you are interested in. You are interested in continuing that growth, feeling that friction, walking through that fire, right? That's why one of the things that I said in the beginning is that this is going to be almost like a variety show, right? Because I personally don't like just talking to people that have the exact same beliefs that I do. I want different perspective. I want to be challenged. I want to continue to grow. So there will be people on this podcast. There will be people on this podcast that have all sorts of different backgrounds, beliefs, thoughts, feelings, views, because if you are just sitting in a room full of people agreeing with you, again, that's an echo chamber and you're not expanding, you're in fact shrinking. And expanding doesn't mean abandoning yourself either. I think it's very important that we point that out, that just because we say that we want to be surrounded by people that have different viewpoints to challenge us, it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm going to be challenged, but I'm just going to agree with what they say. No, maybe that takes you deeper in your own belief. Or maybe it completely shifts your perspective and you realize it wasn't even what you thought before. It's definitely not what they think. And there's a whole third perspective that you didn't even think about, but now you've been challenged to, right? There's not only one truth. There's not only one answer. And when you are willing to sit in complexity and you are willing to not hear, but listen to something that is disrupting your default wiring and still choose what's true for you, right? That is real self-leadership. Leading yourself through each evolution, through discomfort, through nuance. That's what this podcast is here for. That's what radical self-leadership is about. Not a highlight reel, not a hot take, not some perfectly curated healing journey. That's not what it's like. That's not what it's about. It's about truth. It's about grit. It's about growth. And of course, all the little sprinkle of magic, because growth is magic, in fact. So that is all we'll touch on for about radical self-leadership today to get us started, because this is episode 1 and I don't want to keep you here forever. I want you to come back for episode 2. So you can expect from this podcast a little bit of everything. Like I said, we will be talking about all sorts of things, and this podcast is going to be a mirror. This is going to be a mirror that is not always going to be comforting, so I just want to level set that expectation right now. There's going to be days that you're going to come on and you will hear things that make you feel good, but there will also be days that you listen and stop to think like, ooh, I'm a little uncomfortable in that because, that's pointing out an opportunity for me to grow. It is always with the intent to challenge you to go deeper, grow bigger, and continue on your evolution. So that is the whole point. I am here for the friction that is going to turn into that fire of growth and help you come back to yourself over and over and over again with power and with sovereignty. Because right now, we need more integrated people that have done that work speaking out about it. That is what we need. People who are actually living and embodying what they say, who are leading themselves first. So if you're one of those people or you're becoming one of those people, this space is definitely for you and welcome. So with that said, make sure that you, if whatever platform you're watching on, go ahead and hit like, make sure to subscribe so that you don't ever miss an episode. I would also love for you to connect with me on my social media. I'm going to put that all up here on the screen for you and also in the description in the comments below. Make sure you go ahead and follow me over there because there's, other little hot takes and behind the scenes sort of things and real-time reflections that do end up fueling a lot of the content that you're going to see on this podcast. So we are just getting started. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. And make sure that you come back next time where we're going to talk about all of the things. Thanks for joining. Bye.